Folks, welcome to a special event, Turbocharge Your Profitability with Remote Office Technology. I mean, there could not have been a more relevant time to have Frank, present to us on a topic that's it's really important in everyone's lives. I've been in Florida for 5 months or so now, so working remotely. And what Lee said, how do we function with high productivity and high profitability, even with a virtual setup? Frank, what I love about Frank is he owns his own accounting practice in Virginia, very successful. Created a very successful practice, created a very successful software program that he uses in his own firm. He spoke at my conference in Orlando and got a standing ovation from people that were there, because it was just so, like, what he shared was so real and so useful and valuable. So invited him again to come to us, share with us what's working, what's not, and tell us a little bit, talk to us a little bit about his program as well, and how that's really helped him optimize what they do. So Frank, with that said, you are on, my friend.
Thanks, Salim, for that very warm introduction. And I'd like to welcome everybody to Turbocharge Your Profitability with Remote Office Technology. As Salim said, my name's Frank Stitely. I'm the CEO of Clarity Practice Management. I will be showing you a little bit of that later. I'm also the managing member of Stitely and Katstetter CPAs in Chantilly, Virginia. Let's start out.
Frank, for the moment, I'm going to stop my video and I'll be here in the background. So
okay.
I want all eyes on you and the PowerPoint.
Okay. Let's start out with some of the things we're going to cover today. First of all, we're going to talk about why remote office technology is about way more than just surviving the next pandemic. We're going to talk about hardware and software pieces that make you more efficient, even when working from your office, but they're especially useful when you're working remotely. We're going to talk about collaboration strategies for working more efficiently with your staff. And we're going to talk about how to transform your client experience and attract younger clients. Most of all, I hope this is going to be a fun presentation. There's not a lot of really super technical material on it. It's really conceptual things. I'm going to talk about some of the vendors who offer some of the things that you'll need to set up a remote office. Let's start out with where we're headed. This is Emerald Isle, North Carolina. Some of you may have seen this picture before. This is where I spent the first 2 weeks of October 2019. You might recognize those dates as the extended personal tax return season. So I was not working from my office then. We've been a virtual firm for at least 6 years, I'm thinking maybe 8 years. And our motto is we want to be able to work anywhere at any time. And I hope to be able to get you to the place where you're ready to implement that as well. Talk just a little bit about me. First of all, that picture down in the middle, that's actually me. People tell Brad Pitt that he looks a lot like me. Pay no attention to the webcam. That adds 20 years to your age and about 50 pounds to your weight. So the webcam isn't actually what I look like. Just imagine that I look like Brad Pitt, and we'll be good today. Stitely and Katstetter CPAs, it began this in 1989 with a fraternity brother from college, Paul Katstetter, who has since retired a couple of years ago. About 2003, I moved from mainly working with accounting software to traditional accounting services. By 2005, my book of business had gotten to the point where it was unmanageable. So I had to do something. I got together with a client of our firm, Peter Daniel, who owns an IT firm, and we started what is now Clarity Practice Management. And again, I'll show you a little bit of what Clarity can do later, but this is not a product demonstration by any means. Here's what my workload looks like during tax season. I was scheduled to personally prepare about 20 tax returns this year. I failed. I only did about 5 because my job is really more to be a traffic cop, a reviewer, and coach. I'm the CEO of the firm. I'm not a data entry person. So I don't prepare a lot of tax returns personally. And the ones I do are ridiculously easy. They're things like child returns, where it's not worth handing it off to somebody. I can take the W-2 back and type it in and I'm done. I work about 12 hours a day, Monday through Thursday. about 8 hours on Friday, 6 on Saturday, maybe 4 on Sunday. And I can tell you, I don't do that the whole way through tax season. That's really about the worst 3 weeks of tax season for me. Otherwise, I'm not working anywhere near that. Our staff works these hours as well. We don't expect anybody to work any 80-hour weeks. In fact, I think if you're working 80-hour weeks, at some point, you're probably only getting 60 hours worth of work done. But that's a different webinar for another time. Let's start with my remote office experience. Here's where I've spent parts of tax seasons over the last few years. I mentioned Emerald Isle. I've done that 4 times. This year, I'll be there in the first week in September. Why? Because I can. It's the best time to be at the beach. The ocean's warm. It's 80 degrees. Kids are in school. At least I hope they'll still be in school this year, first week of September. And there's lots of fish and seafood going from docks to restaurants. And that's pretty much my ideal of heaven. I've also been to the NCAA Final Four College Basketball Championship in April twice. Once in Dallas, I worked from a seedy motel that had sort of sketchy internet access. I was still able to do my job managing the firm. And once from Indianapolis, where I was fortunate enough to fly on a private plane with a client, which was a lot of fun. He would party all day while I would work from the hotel, and then I would join him in the evenings for the basketball games. Let's talk about why we want to create a remote capable firm. First of all, the threat of a pandemic is reason number 487 or so. I have to admit, it was really convenient in March when our governor imposed a lockdown in Virginia. We all just scattered to our home offices with really no shutdown or even discussion because we're used to doing this already. The biggest reason is really security. Neither you nor I can afford to keep our data safe. There's no more flying under the bad guy's radar. Hackers aren't even human anymore. They use robotic process automation to harvest masses of data from vulnerable systems that they then analyze later using artificial intelligence tools to see what they have. What do we really have that's valuable to the bad guys? Well, first of all, we all have direct deposit data that is in our tax return software. So we really have something vulnerable that we have to protect. And we don't really have the resources to stop them anymore. In fact, if you look at the picture on the slide, this isn't what hackers look like anymore. It's not a 16-year-old trying to change his geometry. As I mentioned, it's all done on an automated basis. And if you have a vulnerable system, I can tell you they've hit you already. The only question is whether you know it and whether they got anything that they want. Now, there are some more reasons to create a remote capable firm. First of all, power outages. We're here in Northern Virginia where there is construction all around us. Probably once every other week or so, we get a power outage. And when that happens, we all scatter to our homes and we're working just like normal. Internet outages. For us in Northern Virginia, snow days. If you're familiar with Northern Virginia, we're a little bit west of Washington, D.C., about 25 miles, and a little south of Dulles Airport. If we get an inch of snow, Northern Virginia shut down for 2 days. So we don't have to have anybody brave coming to the office. Everybody can work from home with snow days. And that was one of our original motivations to go to remote offices. Working vacations, I'm big on this. I mentioned going to Emerald Isle during tax season. I'll work for a few hours in the morning while my wife sleeps. I can do the traffic copying. I can keep things moving along in the process. I can review returns and so forth. And then when she wakes up about 11 a.m. in the morning, we can go have our day. We can be on holiday or vacation the rest of the day. Remote technology also helps you employ remote staff. And this really widens your labor pool to national or international. We have a group of 15 part-time tax preparers who work for us during tax season. Sometimes a few of them work non-tax season with us as well, but they are all over the country. For instance, my best corporate tax guy is in Arizona. I'm not going to tell you where in Arizona he is because I don't want you to find him. I don't want to give him up. We also at one point had the spouse of a U.S. Army officer working from an Army base in Germany. So this can be national or international. can also utilize specialists that you can't afford full-time. You may find somebody that you need occasionally who works several hours away or even halfway across the country. They do something very specific that you need that you can't afford full-time. Well, allowing them to work remotely with you gives you the ability to have that expertise. Finally, it enables outsourced solutions. So if you're interested in using a firm like Initor or one of the many other places that offers tax preparation services from, say, India or the Philippines, having a remote capable firm lets you just plug these people in. In fact, we used Initor this year for a couple of people, and it worked great. It was just like we had employees on the other side of the world. The other thing about remote technology is you can get the same working experience from wherever you are. For instance, if you're at a conference, you don't have to load up a bunch of data on a laptop, which might get stolen or might get damaged. You have the same experience. You have your full suite of applications wherever you are. And best of all, your data follows. About a dozen years ago, when we first started pursuing being able to work remotely, we were using GoToMyPC, and then we went to terminal server. And the problem we had with those solutions was that every time we had a software update, we basically had to do the update on all those different computers that people were connecting into. With the technology I'm going to talk about in a slide or two, all that is behind us. Let's talk about what you need for remote operations, and we will talk about all of these shortly. First of all, cloud-based virtual workstations. Sometimes these are referred to as hosted desktops. You'll need some cloud-based staff and client collaboration tools. You'll need scanners to get data into the cloud. You'll need some PDF manipulation software. Scan and Populate software for your tax prep application is also a great thing to do. These are programs that your tax software vendor will have that will let you take data out of PDFs and put them directly into your tax returns. For instance, it will scan for W-2s, 1099s, 1098s, and do the data entry for you. We're going to talk about setting up your staff to succeed remotely. I've seen a bunch of articles lately decrying how tough it is to keep your staff productive at home. There are some steps you can take to make certain it happens. We're fortunately in the accounting industry where it's easy to figure out whether people are being productive. Finally, we'll talk about voice over IP telephone systems that can follow you anywhere. So nobody really even knows where you're working from anymore. Let's start first with the cloud-based virtual workstations. These are the core of your remote strategy and probably the thing you'll do first when you're going remote. The reason for cloud-based virtual workstations is the state of the art for multi-tenant cloud accounting applications is not that good. Most of the really good tax prep applications are still on-premises software. The ones that are true cloud are not particularly good at this point. Vendors took a lot of shortcuts that they're starting to pay for now. A lot of them are using this thing called TurboNet, which I like to refer to as fake cloud. It's the worst of cloud and on-premises wrapped into one. And I say that because typically TurboNet uses your local processing capability on your local computer, puts a heavy load on that. In addition, it puts a heavy internet load moving data up and down off of it, which is really the worst of both worlds. The best part about having a remote strategy is that you don't need much of a local workstation in terms of processing power, and you're not using a lot of internet access as well, really just screenshots and keystrokes. What is a virtual workstation? Virtual workstations use RDP, remote desktop processing, to connect to a desktop in the cloud. In other words, you no longer own your desktop. You have a computer on your desk wherever you are, or a laptop, and that connects to your real desktop that has all of your programs installed. The virtual workstations let you choose the best of breed applications, which, as I mentioned, are still mainly on premises. They just get installed in the cloud for you. One of the things I really like is that someone else manages the software, the hardware, the licenses, and most importantly, security. I mentioned that none of us can afford the security we need for a small CPA firm. Cloud vendors are the people who manage this for us, and they have lots of full-time people who do nothing but security. Here are some of the vendors that provide remote desktops or virtual workstations. We're using Thrive Networks. Right Networks is another one. Cloud9, Ace Hosting is another one. Pretty much every IT person on the planet now white labels a solution and make one of these available. What I recommend is that you focus on vendors who primarily deal with accountants. The reason for that is they're familiar with the different tax applications. They're familiar with the different time and billing applications. Most of them are familiar with various practice management software as well. So they're not going to be fumbling around trying to get something like, say, CCH Pro FX to work. They've done it before. They know how to get it. So again, I recommend using people who work with accountants primarily. We're going to talk a little bit now about staff and client collaboration tools. The first thing I'd like to state is that the end of email is pretty much upon us. Email literally threatens the existence of your practice every day. You and your staff are just one mouse click away from disaster. The reason for that is that any of the 7.8 billion people on the planet send you an email. The bad guys are getting really good with phishing emails. For instance, and I assume you guys have been getting these as well, we've been getting emails from potential clients, so to speak, and we find out that for the most part, all these people are going to do is they're going to turn around and they're going to hit us with a ransomware attachment or something like that. Ransomware is really becoming a business model. It's worthwhile now for the bad guys to invest in boiler rooms. One of these fake clients, we even had a phone conversation with them, and the reason we found that they were a fake client and not a real one is that when we asked for some prior year tax returns, they sent us an attachment that was a zip file that didn't look like anything that we had asked for. So we had our IT guys look at it, and sure enough, it was ransomware. Some of you may be aware that the city of Baltimore got hit with ransomware last summer. They were down in terms of their automated systems for 7 or 8 months. They were processing property transactions manually on paper. It was a really bad thing. And if the city of Baltimore can get hit with it, you can certainly get hit with it. Another reason that email is ending is it kills productivity. The reason for that is clients send you attachments. How much fun is it to get 20 emails from a client, each with one attachment? And then he sends you a final email saying, hey, did you get all my attachments? Well, you don't know how many attachments there were to start with. It's a lot of fun. You then have to save all the attachments individually to your network. And then you have to let your tax preparer, whoever's working for you, know that the files are there. There's a much better way to do this. We'll explore that in a little bit with collaboration. Last year, the CEO of Slack predicted the end of business email in 5 years. I think he's wrong. I think it's dead in 2 years. Between ransomware and how unproductive we are with email as well as spam, I think email is dead in 2 years. First of all, let's start out with what you need that is really more than a portal. What you really need is one place where your clients and staff can communicate back and forth. Rather than using a hybrid of email and a portal or a practice management system and a portal and email, you really need one place to do all this. One of the advantages of this is you know the identities of everyone on the system, and that's because you've granted them access to it. It's an opt-in system. For instance, with email, anybody can email you on a client and staff collaboration tool like Clarity Practice Management. You know the identities. Clients can post files for you and you get notifications, you and your staff. You and your staff can post files and clients get notifications. This makes draft tax returns a lot more possible. It makes tax return delivery a lot more efficient. We know from a Lean Six Sigma study that if we deliver a tax return on paper, it takes our admin staff about 20 minutes. If we do it electronically, it takes less than 8. And if you take that times 2,000 tax returns, that 12 minutes adds up to a lot of time and a lot of money. All of your communications are written and easily retrievable. You don't have to rely on Outlook searches. You can manage projects and workflow from one place again. Clients can collaborate with you on their schedules and you can work with them on yours. We have a lot of IT clients. I'm certain you know the stereotype of the IT person working at 3 a.m. surrounded by empty pizza boxes. Well, I can tell you I'm not working at 3 a.m., so they can work with us on their schedule, and I can come in at 7 in the morning and start working with them one morning. You can communicate with groups of clients at one time. You can easily communicate with staff members. By the way, I know a guy who does that. That would be Clarity, but there are some other solutions I'll talk about shortly. Let's talk a little bit about scanners. We need scanners to get data into the cloud, and I would recommend standardizing your hardware. And I would start out with what your tax software vendor recommends. I can tell you almost all of them recommend Fujitsu scanners that we use for our admin staff. They are pricey. They start at about $800 and go up from there. But what I have found, and through difficult experiences, that the Fujitsu scanners work better with the Scan and Populate software for almost all the tax vendors. I was at a CCH conference a few years ago, and I went to the Fujitsu booth, and I said, am I right in assuming that the tax software developers use Fujitsu scanners to develop the products? And he said, yes, they do, and wonder why they work better than anybody else's scanners. For everybody who's not part of our admin staff, our tax preparers and managers and partners, we have Brother all-in-one printer scanners. They're nice in that they will duplex scan in one pass, legal size. They're expensive to use as printers, but we don't print much anymore. PDF manipulation tools. Once you get into the cloud and you're working remotely, you really can't work remotely with paper. And scanners are pretty much the second best solution. The best solution is to avoid paper in the first place. And that helps you eliminate tax season meetings to gather documents. You can also discourage mail-ins and drop-offs. In fact, a lot of this stuff couldn't even occur starting the third week in March. If you're using collaboration software to gather the documents, you're skipping that scanning, you're skipping that labor part for your admin or you to get the documents into the cloud. Prior to this tax season, for instance, 2018 tax season, about 75% of our CPA firm clients scanned all of their tax documents to Clarity Practice Management. This year, with the pandemic, we were over 85%. I think people who were not otherwise scanning their documents for us learned to love the idea that they could sit safely in front of their TV at home, scan their documents, post it for us, and they didn't have to come in at all. We didn't have to brave Northern Virginia traffic to get here. And I'll have a little bit more on this later, how this works. First of all, and next, learn to love Adobe Creative Cloud. I know it's expensive, but I've tried lots of other PDF manipulation packages. The thing that Adobe has that pretty much nobody else has is plugins to extend the Adobe capability. Pretty much all the tax software vendors now have created plugins like CCH PD Flyer, FrontWorks by Drake. I know ProSeries has one. I don't know what the name is right offhand. But these add-ins provide tick marks, calculators, and engagement stamps that can help you standardize what your work papers look like. One of the things that we try to train people in our CPA firm is that I don't want to be able to tell who did the work paper based on how it looks. I want all of us to be doing the work papers the same way because it really speeds up review as well as preparation. And to me, the only thing I've found that works for this is Adobe Creative Cloud. Scan and Populate tax software. This takes the data from PDF tax documents and it imports it into your tax software. In the case of most of these, you can have an admin staff verify the data. In other words, they will get a picture or the PDF of the W-2 side by side with what the software is getting ready to import. And that information can be verified before it gets into the tax return. It has to be fixed there. One of the great things about Scan and Populate software is it eliminates needless data entry. You can use less expensive staff to get W-2s, 1099s, 1098s, brokerage statements, and so forth into a tax return. Here's what some of the vendors have. CCH AutoFlow, which works with Pro System FX and CCH Access. FrontWorks works with at least Drake and Lucerne. May work with Pro Series at this point, I'm not certain. Thomson Reuters UltraTax has a product called WorkPapers, which does the same thing. And you may be familiar with SurePrep, which works with a whole bunch of different vendors. Pretty much all the tax software vendors have them at this point. Not all of them are particularly good, but this is what Scan and Populate software for tax returns does. Let's talk about how you can set up your staff to succeed remotely. Our aim is to help them create productive home work environments. When we heard that we were going to be shut down in the state of Virginia, we went around to our staff to try to make certain that they had what they needed to work remotely. All of us here have at least 2 monitors. Almost all of us have 3. Anybody who wants a 3rd monitor, we definitely get it. We had a bunch of extra monitors sitting around, and I have no idea why we had a bunch of extra monitors except for the fact that I misbought. I had more monitors than we needed when we moved to a new office. So we gave those monitors to people who only had 1 at home, so that they would be able to be as productive at home as they are in the office. And what that did was it gave me the idea that the productivity that we want to encourage in a home work environment is worth our assisting financially. By that, I mean, we're going to provide a reimbursement for people to make certain that they have something at their homes that makes them able to be productive. It's going to be a reimbursement because we want to know what they're buying, and then we'll reimburse them for it. But this could be things like better mice, better keyboards, more monitors, printer scanner. If they have a really old CPU, we'll help them replace that. There are some advantages to assisting financially. First of all, I recommend putting their home workstations under your tech support. The reason for this is the most important thing you have regarding clients is client data. Don't you want that data to be protected when your staff's working from home? I absolutely think you do. And that goes with laptops as well. This also helps keep your staff productive. If they have trouble with a printer driver or some minor driver issue, something that's going to shut them down basically from working from home, if they're under your tech support plan, they have somebody to call, somebody who can get them back up and work. I would also try to standardize their hardware. In other words, if you're going to assist financially with them, you would have a little bit of say in what they're buying for a printer scanner or something like that. Something that's going to make it easier for your tech support people to deal with. The other really big thing that assisting people with their home work environments does is it signals your commitment that you expect them to be productive remotely. This isn't a game that you're going to play once in a while. You expect them to be every bit as productive at home as they are in your office. I'm going to talk a little bit about setting up staff to succeed remotely. First of all, this is a picture on move-in day of my office. And right now we just got art. After tax season, we finally got an interior designer, we're getting art. So I have a nice picture there now above the scanner. And I want to make some key points as to what my office has in it. First of all, it has the ubiquitous Diet Coke that's always there. I happen to have one of those now. I have 3 monitors. I have a standing desk. I have an ergonomic chair, and that chair cost about $500, maybe a little less than 500. It wasn't like 500. Here's one of the things we learned a few years ago. Buying the $100 chairs doesn't make any financial sense because you typically have to buy one every year. Now, this chair is probably going to last me 7 or 8 years. So at that point, number one, I got a better chair. And number two, we spent $500, not $700 or $800 on chairs. I have a very small file cabinet. Really, when you're paperless and remote, if you're not letting paper get into your office, you don't have much of a reason to store it anywhere. Here is my all-in-one Brother printer scanner unit. Let's take a look at my home office next. See the similarities between them. First of all, I have the 3 monitors again. I have a standing desk. I have an all-in-one Brother printer scanner. This is a slightly earlier model. I have the 1 file cabinet again, and I have the exact same ergonomic chair. So there's no reason for me not to be as productive from home as I am in the office. And in fact, I'm incredibly productive, sometimes more so. Let's talk about one of the last hardware pieces to get your remote office up and running, and this is a voice over IP phone system. The great thing about these phone systems is that they follow you anywhere at this point. For instance, you can have it in the office, you can have it at home. They all pretty much do cell phone forwarding. This eliminates clients having your cell phone number. I can actually call clients from home using my cell phone, but it goes through our office phone system so that they don't know it's coming from my cell phone. Similarly, I can answer calls at home from the office phone system. And clients, again, don't know where I am. Most of these systems have video call and meeting capability. This reduces in-person meetings. If you have clients who absolutely must review draft tax returns with you, you can use these video call and meeting capabilities to review draft returns, have virtual meetings, and so forth. Remote access to client IT systems. I know some of you are probably there already. These are products like GoToAssist or LogMeIn. They are a great way to access a client's QuickBooks desktop, for instance, and enter adjusting journal entries from the prior year, because we all know how great our clients are at entering those things. Here are some of the vendors for voice over IP phone systems. We're using GoToConnect. It's a Citrix system that has a whole bunch of multiple brand names that they're now consolidating under the GoToConnect brand name. We actually bought ours as Jive. Now everything says GoToConnect. RingCentral's been around forever, Vonage, Pantera. I found that happiness with one of these systems is mainly driven by the quality of your internet connectivity. I spend a lot of time in Facebook groups of CPA and accounting firm practitioners, and I see all their complaints about the various voice over IP phone systems. One of the conclusions I've drawn from this is that almost all of the issues are driven by flaky internet connectivity. So if you have a location where your internet's flaky, you probably aren't going to be terribly happy with the voice over IP phone system. I'm going to show you a little bit what ours looks like. Ours functions in multiple different ways. First of all, it works from our computer. It can use the microphone and the speakers from the computer. That's the mode that I have it in now. You can see it looks pretty easy to use. I'm on the activity that shows all the different calls I've gotten. I can install this at home, which I've done, so that I have the office phone system on my home computer. There is also a smartphone app, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, that's easy to use. You can also have a telephone on your desk, so it works with a hard, regular, old-fashioned telephone. So you've got really 3 ways you can access it. We also have the ability to do on-demand video calls. This little icon right here launches GoToMeeting. That's a Citrix product. That's why it's part of GoToConnect. Talk a little bit about collaborating with your staff in a remote office situation. You really need one place to easily exchange information back and forth. Files, messages, project statuses. Email is not really the way to do it. If your email works the way mine does during tax season, I'm easily getting 25 to 30 emails an hour. It's impossible to manage an active practice the size of the practice we have using email. Here are some tools for routine internal communications and training and knowledge base. We have a question there about about clarity. I'm going to do that in a few minutes, Bill. Believe me, I wouldn't miss that opportunity. For routine internal communications and training, Slack, although I think Slack is having a lot of competition from Microsoft Teams, because if you have Office 365, Microsoft Teams is free. There are a bunch of Citrix solutions, GoToMeeting, GoToConnect, LogMeIn, There is Zoom, which is, of course, what we're using now. I'm not a big fan of Google Hangouts and Facebook's new remote office or remote meeting capability. I don't think either of those two vendors has particularly good security, and I think we all know they've done bad things with confidential data, so I really don't think those are the places for CPA and accounting. There are plenty of other choices. Your tax software should have some collaboration features. For instance, different levels of review. Our tax software has different colored check marks, so you can see who's reviewed a particular item. You also need the ability to restrict access to returns by teams if you have a good size practice. You don't necessarily want every preparer to have access to every return in your system. Here are some of the practice management solutions that help with having that one place to collaborate with your staff. First of all, Clarity Practice Management. I know a guy. It's first on my list for obvious reasons. I'm the one who put together the presentation. CCH Workstream is another one. Thomson Reuters has one as part of their CS suite. Jetpack Workflow is pretty popular. Carbon is pretty popular. Atom is a lower end package that is also popular. What I'm going to recommend for practice management solutions is that you go to one that is CPA and accounting firm specific. I know lots of people are using project management packages that really aren't specific, and they're going to be missing things that you want for an accounting firm. Some of the things these solutions should be able to do is incorporate project management. They should have dashboard firm management, have the ability to have review notes for tax returns, comps, reviews, bookkeeping, whatever it is you do. A reviewer should be able to make notes for the preparer. Should have the ability to create questions and missing items lists directly on the site. That means no email for sending questions. That means no email for getting answers. You should be able to exchange comments between staff. You should be able to exchange files and have secure storage. I'm not a big fan of Dropbox for this. Dropbox, I think, has fixed a lot of the security problems that they had a couple of years ago. But I think it's a pretty kludgy solution in that you've got to find a way to make sense of the Dropbox organization. And I think it's easier if you take a system that's already built around that organization for CPA. Also want the ability to eliminate internal email from discussions about clients. The reason I mention this and make a bit of a big deal about it is that if you have a hosted email solution like Rackspace or Office 365, if you or if I send an email to my colleague in the office next to me, that email actually goes outside of our office through the World Wide Web to get back into our office for him. I think it's great to have a solution where you can have discussions behind a firewall that nobody in the world has access to except with your permission. Talk a little bit about collaborating with clients. First of all, paper is a huge hurdle for remote work. You want to eliminate it on the front end as much as possible because scanning is really a second best solution. It costs a combination of email and a portal. We're not going to be able to capture all client interactions in one place. I'm certain you're all familiar with trying to search Outlook for something that you got a week ago. I have trouble with Outlook searching for something I got yesterday, the way email works. But I have no trouble in Clarity Practice Management finding a discussion 5 years ago about a tax return. I can find that in 5 seconds. You want a system that can generate notifications to clients on an automated basis so that you don't have to send emails to clients to remind them to answer questions or sign engagement letters. And similarly with staff, when clients do things, you want all the staff who are necessary to know about something, find out about it. You want to be able to post files and comments in one place. And I mentioned earlier, posting questions for clients and have them answer directly on the site. It's nice to be able to send communications for segmented groups of clients. We did that this year with PPP loan information. We were able on Clarity to pick, for instance, just our business clients, because our personal clients really didn't care about the PPP. We were able to then go to our personal clients and talk about tax deadlines separately from our business clients, as we had some issues in Virginia with the tax deadline not being extended to July 15th, being June 1st. We want to be able to control the access to client data, even from clients themselves. And I'm thinking about divorce situations where you may have a time period and tax returns that were joint, where you want both spouses to have it, but going forward, you want each spouse to have a separate account that the other one cannot access. Same thing for business and personal account access. You might have a business owner who wants an account that the controller can access, but the business owner might also have a personal account that they don't want the controller to have access to. So you want to be able to very carefully control access to confidential data that you've got. Let's continue talking a little bit about collaborating with your clients. I think this first topic, training your clients to be remote friendly, is something that people talk way more about than is maybe necessary, because clients expect us to interact online. They use Amazon, Facebook, and e-banking. They're certainly wanting to interact with us in an online system. This makes you attractive to a younger client base. What happens when you call a millennial on a cell phone? Absolutely nothing, because millennials do not answer cell phones. They want to communicate with you electronically in an opt-in environment. Being remote makes your practice more valuable to potential buyers because you'll have a younger client base. I think we're going to see over the next 4 or 5 years a whole bunch of practitioners headed to the exits, trying to retire with clients who are 65 years and older. And those clients just are not worth 1 time's revenue anymore. 98% of our clients use Clarity. Actually, it's probably more like 99%. And we've been doing this for a dozen years. So I think I have a bit of experience here. I don't want clients who won't use our system. They're way too expensive to service. This is our process. And the example I like to use is, would you go to an auto mechanic, take your car in for repair, and then he picks up a wrench and you say, oh no, don't use that wrench. I want you to use this other wrench over here. We wouldn't think of doing that, but we will let certain clients do that to us. We let them tell us what our process should be, and we just don't do that. Secondly, I think you have to educate clients about the dangers of email. Email, text, and messenger cost us time. It's inefficient to move data onto our network. We want to emphasize as clients the dangers we talked about earlier, the possibility that they will be compromised or their data is going to be compromised. People who use regular email are going to be compromised and likely have been already. What I'd like to do next is bring it all together and show you how a tax return can work in a remote environment with no meetings, no phone calls, and no emails. And this will be hopefully not more than about 5 minutes to show you this. I'm going to hop out of the PowerPoint. I'm going to hop over into Clarity Practice Management. And I have a project up on the screen that's a 2019 individual income tax return. I'm certain you're all familiar with the Baby Shark song, Baby Shark, do. Well, I have Daddy and Mommy Shark as clients. Baby Shark doesn't have that much income. So what I want to show you next is a contactless tax return. You can see here we have people assigned to the tax return, and I'll talk about them in just a little bit. The way this tax return starts is first the client posts all of his information to Clarity Practice Management and leaves me a note saying, Frank, I just posted my files for my 2019 tax returns. Let me know if you have any questions. And he's in a big hurry. He's applying for a PPP loan. He has posted those documents over here to the files from Client Care. And when he did that, everyone who was on this project got a notification that these documents were here. Next, as the person in charge, I start the process. I let our admin person, Kathy Dietz, know that the return is ready to process. This please D and P means download and process. That's our internal code. Kathy takes these files, smashes them into one PDF, runs them through CCH Autoflow, and imports it into the tax return. Then Kathy lets the preparer, Michelle, know that it's ready for prep. It's Daddy Shark. It better be one on the top of your list. Michelle then compiles a list of questions, missing items list, lets me know it's there. The questions are over here on the Q&A tab. Open up this one. You can see she's asking questions like, need the engagement letter, any miscellaneous income, changes to income, foreign bank account, all the normal stuff you ask. I then take a look at those questions. I edit them. I can delete questions. I can add stuff to it. Then I send the questions to Daddy Shark. Daddy Shark gets an email notification that says, please log into Clarity Practice Management. We have a questions list for you. You can then see Daddy Shark has answered the questions. Hates the engagement letter, made 5 million traded tuna futures. And the major change he expects for next year is for his tax return fees to go in. So Daddy Shark then answers the questions, hits the submit button, and then everyone on this project gets a notification that the questions have been answered. Michelle, the preparer, picks up the answers. Michelle completes the return, sends it on to Christy, the reviewer. Christy reviews the return, posts review notes for Michelle to consider. Then Michelle completes the return, notifies me that it is ready to go to draft stage. I tell Michelle and Christy I'm going to do a final review and post a draft. So I do that final review and I post a draft for Daddy Shark. When I do that, Daddy Shark gets a notification that there is a draft return there. And in the case of Clarity Practice Management, Daddy Shark can either approve or disapprove. And if he disapproves, he can give us a reason why he's disapproved. But in this case, Daddy Shark has accepted it. And when he hits the approved button, that leaves a note for us on the firm side that he has approved the draft. He also leaves a nice pithy note asking me if I work for the IRS and am I a communist. And then he leaves that favorite note that I love more than anything else from the client. I can't owe that much. I don't have that much. I'm certain we all hear that from time to time. So next, Kathy takes it over from here in admin. She posts the final tax return. I think you can see this looks like a final tax return. This is how we break it up into different pieces. She then leaves some instructions for Daddy Shark. She did not have to type all of this out. She selected a preschool template that she then customized for Daddy Shark. At this point, the return gets moved into waiting on 8879, waiting on e-file papers as part of our workflow. Daddy Shark then takes the 8879 and he signs it and he puts it back up onto the site, back here on your files from client. See, signed 8879 for you IRS employees. Kathy then picks up the 8879s, files the return, and when we get an acceptance notice, the system kicks out a note to Daddy Shark saying your returns have been accepted by our colleagues at the IRS. And they will be coming to your house to collect your payment. So that from beginning to end is what I like to call contactless tax return. This is how everything happens in one place. It's the one, as you noticed here, there was nothing else happening except for some email notifications to the client, and we don't put anything important in those notifications. So I hope that answers Bill's question, in that from a singularity standpoint, everything related to a client engagement happens here on practice management or Clarity Practice Management side. I am going to go back to the slides yet. So let's talk about some additional resources that I like for remote office technology. First of all, I like anything coming from Randy Johnson and K2 Enterprises. This is their website. I think he's one of the foremost tech experts in the CPA profession. CPAtrendlines.com is my favorite sort of e-newsletter or my favorite site for practice management advice. That's what it exists for. Our Clarity Practice Management website, we also have a series of YouTube videos that explain exactly how Clarity Practice Management works and accomplishes all of these functions. And of course, I like my book, The Relentless CPA, a new 21st century system for driving success in tax and accounting firms. I still haven't corrected that misspelling, by me. And here's what it looks like. You can get it on CPA Trendlines. I have a second book in the works that is actually at the publisher, which will be a little more in-depth treatment of practice management itself and how Lean Six Sigma applies to CPA firms. So look for that coming out in a few months. Here is my contact information. Remember my face down here? If you run into me in Hollywood, tap me on the shoulder, we'll go get a beer. And I think, Salim, I'm ready to open up for questions. And I would like to, before I take some questions, talk about, we have a special offer for everybody with CPA Marketing Genius. And that special offer is 30 days free and then 50% off the first 3 months. And here is a link that will get you there. Really easy. If you can remember Salim's first name, you can remember the link. Thanks very much. Let's take what we have for questions.
Awesome. Great. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Frank. Appreciate it. Question from Vugar. How do the client sign? That went down. Let's see. How do the client sign the files? Print, sign, and scan, or some e-signature?
E-signature, we don't stop any of the popular, for instance, Adobe e-signature. You can do that in conjunction with Clarity. We are actually introducing a Clarity-specific e-signature function by the end of the summer. And the unique thing about our function is there will be 0 email involved. One of the things that we think syncs e-signatures is that your clients get emails from people who want you, asking them to start the process. We will have a very unique solution in Clarity that will allow them to do e-signature of any document you want directly on the Clarity site by the end of the summer.
Awesome. Victor saying, how long does it take to implement Clarity on average?
You can be up and running in 2 to 3 days. We even have a jumpstart video, and we'll help you as well. We offer assistance. We can put together a proposal for you if you don't really feel confident after looking at our YouTube stuff and getting started. But Clarity is really easy to set up. We will also import your client names and addresses for free.
Awesome. Cool. And Trent asking, what's the conversion process from CCH Access PM software to yours?
If you're using Workstream, or I guess I'd have to sort of find out where you're in the process or what you're using with CCH. But we would take out your data, your contact information data, and we would put it into an Excel format, and we would pull it into Clarity Practice Management. The one thing you would have to recreate would be any projects in process at the time.
Cool. CCH PM Workstream document, Trent saying. So does that change anything?
Not really. The only part of this that really isn't going to be automated, the part that is automated is we can get all your clients in. The part that's not automated is our practice management fields are a little bit different than theirs.
Got it. Cool. Vuga is asking, you were talking about importing W-2s. How does it work with your system? Do we still use our own tax software? Great question.
You'll be using your own tax software. What Clarity does is really takes over the collaboration between clients, staff, you, and project management. You'll still use your existing tax software. You'll still use your existing scan and populate software. We're just doing the collaboration and client-facing pieces.
Awesome. Frank, expand on how Clarity as a practice singularity platform improves the return on workforce, enabling practices to expand business capacity.
I think I hit that one. That's from Bill already. And he also
Okay.
asked, can I do a data dump of my
Okay, got it.
existing
Awesome.
data?
Yeah.
We will actually do the data dump for you, Bill. What we'll ask you to do is get us your client names and addresses in an Excel format, and then we will map them to Clarity and pull them in for free.
Awesome. Cool. Folks, great opportunity asking any questions. If this is something you know, if what Frank shared resonated with you, take him up on what he's offering here. So essentially it's the link. People are, you know, that's the link there. And I don't know if we can put that in, but I guess people can type that in. It's not in the chat thing, but if you know, for those who are taking Frank up on this, on his special offer, kind of just go to that URL and do that. Frank, you wrote a book, The Relentless CPA. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Relentless CPA was, I guess, something that had to come out of me or I was going to burst. What the Relentless CPA does, and I hope anybody who reads it finds that there's a lot of humor in it. It combines a lot of stories from my 30 years as a CPA. But what it does is it walks through project management, basically, from beginning to end. What is a project? How do you create workflow behind a project? And even how do you manage people? And how do you not manage people? To me, it's sort of a guidebook for beginning to end, how you manage a CPA firm and have happy clients and not kill yourself with 14-hour days.
Yeah. So I know, Frank, you offered that book for, I think, $195.
If you're on CPA trend lines, there's always some kind of special going on. So go there. There's a special pretty much every day, so you will not pay $195. If you sign up with our special offer here, I will get you a copy of the book for free.
I was trying to get that out of you, Frank.
Just come out and say it, so we've known each other long enough.
I sent you the message on the chat thing. I was like, can we give some of your books, please?
Yep, absolutely, we can do that.
These guys are special people. They're amazing. And so look, guys, I've twisted his arm. He's super generous. He sells a ton of these books for full price, and you're getting $195, which is a bargain even at that price, because that book's amazing.
And Salim, we had a question in the chat here about the slides. I can email these in PDF format to you so you can distribute them.
Sure thing. Absolutely. Will do. Good. Awesome. Good, man. We are finished. We are close to, on the hour. Any remaining final questions, burning questions, things that you're not sure of, you wanna ask Mr. Clarity himself? Answer. Good opportunity to do that. And if not, we can finish off. Oh, the lease question, very relevant question, Liam. Glad I saw that. Sorry, missed it the first time. Would Clarity work well for sole practitioners, or is it an overkill?
I think Clarity is even more imperative for sole practitioners because it automates a lot of the routine communications that sole practitioners do not have much of an admin staff to do. So I think if anything, Clarity is even more relevant to small and very small firms. And you don't have to implement it the way a 20-person firm would. It's going to be different in terms of what your workflows are and so forth in a sole practitioner environment.
Cool. Awesome. Great. So folks, let's finish off here. Take Frank up on his offer. It's right there on the screen. And for those who take him up on this thing, you're getting a free copy of his book, The Relentless CPA. Frank, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks everyone. For Victor, everyone else, you're most welcome. Thanks for joining us. Hope you got a lot of value from this. And Frank, thank you, man. Any final words of wisdom?
Stay safe. Wear a mask where you're supposed to wear a mask, I guess, because nobody needs us getting sick right now.
Yeah, true.
How about that?
Yeah. Awesome. Great. All right, folks. Enjoy. Have a great rest of the week. And we'll see you soon.